All right. I believe this means we are live. Fingers crossed. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly, horribly named podcast series. And the QA, of course, stands for question and answer. We're going to make this an interactive conversation as we jump into the top tech news. Hopefully my internet connection remains stable. It is melting down. We are kicking off the beginnings of a CES like no other. Normally I would be in Las Vegas stomping around the show floor, but right now I am trying to keep up with all of the tech news remote, doing live streaming. My wife works from home. My daughter does school from home. Our broadband, not the best. And we're going to power through this and see if we can make this work because we got a lot to talk about. This is going to be a crazy fun show. Just in the interest of keeping things a little bit livelier, if you're watching this on the YouTubes, welcome. I usually stream just on Twitch and then upload replays later. I'm putting you in because I literally do not have the time to do a separate upload with the broadband issues that we're having these days. So I'm already seeing the amazing crew over on Twitch. That's where our live chat usually goes. Chatty Boy, Dave Burns, Vince Nova, ER, Warhead. Who else we got? Al Spockley, Gadget Guy. Gadget Guy 2020. We've got Scrappy Coco just waving in to say hello. We got a lot of stuff to get through. Thankfully, before this went up, I tried to download as much B-roll as I could. See, this is the challenge. CES is an ever-evolving tech conference. You know, it's a trade show. We all show up. We walk around. We get the excitement, that energy of the show floor. When I cover CES, I'm not usually a keynote kind of guy. I'm usually a run the show floor kind of guy, a run and gun style of production. I mean, the last 2 years that I went to CES, I covered it from my phone. So the notion of like sitting and watching a presentation does not grok, like does not vibe with the way that I would normally run around and cover things at CES. And you know, for some of the side events like a PepCom or a Showstoppers, I'm not used to this. I'm like kind of crawling out of my skin, just getting to the meat and potatoes of like what we're trying to talk about, what we're trying to accomplish when we talk about new tech. So this is going to be a very challenging show for me to keep up with, for me to cover. I'm going to miss doing like daily vlogs of what it was like running around and covering the show floor. That's kind of one of my favorite things to do on CES week. And again, it's just I'm not really going to get to see my friends. In fact, for as exciting as it is that we're able to get any kind of show floor up and running, this is going to be one of the loneliest feeling shows where when I'm done covering the trade events, I'm going to walk out into my living room, not go grab a drink or grab a meal with TK or Enabong or Josh or any of the other crew that I like hanging out with. This is a psychologically profoundly different kind of experience, but my own mental health and well-being notwithstanding, we've got early announcements already. So from the show floor, we got a great presentation from Panasonic. We've got TCL announcing some stuff that's going to be really cool. We have the Sony and the LG press conferences that went up earlier, and some really interesting trends already emerging in tech. So let's kick this off. I'm massively abbreviating news this week. There's only one news story that I want to talk about before we get into CES stuff, but I still do want to cover some housekeeping. Last week, I was kind of getting back up to speed. I've still got videos that are going to be coming out and products and reviews, some highlights. I'm working with Newegg to try and figure out what we're going to do for coverage because we're all remote. Newegg isn't going to have a physical presence at the show this year either. And I'm going to be taking on a freelancer gig, just getting another byline over at reviews.org. So there's going to be a lot to kind of maneuver, but on somegadgetguy.com, we did get some videos out, some videos and an article. Last week, there was, of course, the embargo lifted. It's kind of funny to talk about a regional embargo for a product that's already gone international. But last week we had a little to talk about because... There we go. Apparently my screen share is still working. Ha ha. I mean, I am holding this together with like bubble gum and scotch tape right now. I will be amazed if this live stream survives. By the benchmarks, budget showdown, OnePlus Nord N10 versus TCL 10 5G UW. Truly affordable 5G devices. Really running them through all the same benchmarks and content creation tests and laptop replacement app tests. If you want to see what a $300 phone can do, then you should absolutely head on over to somegadgetguy.com. I've got all of the charts and graphs, and you can see how this all compares. And also very exciting because we're talking about a $300 phone that is very capable of hanging with $1,000 700 series Snapdragon chipset. So as much as I love my LG Wing, there are some tasks that the Nord was very capable of hanging with. Of course, to go along with that article, it was the right time to do a follow-up video. OnePlus Nord N10 for the USA, truly affordable 5G. This is my full follow-up. So I had the international version of the N10, and I was ready to be pretty critical when it landed in the United States. But of course, criticisms are comparable against price, and I was not expecting the Nord to land as inexpensively as it did. So I was very pleasantly surprised by the price-performance ratio that OnePlus is offering because, again, this is a hotly growing competitive market in the United States. Higher profile devices, sub $400. We don't have a ton of those here. We're not like Europe or Asia. So this is very, very fresh territory for a lot of folks here in the United States. I had to return to my audio roots. MicMe is a company I have not covered in a while. I did a collaboration with Mr. Mobile over 2 years ago. The first MicMe was this really cute, blocky, kind of Borg cube of a microphone. And it turns out, so I mentioned some of the audio tech in that mic reminded me of AKG, my favorite AKG mics. Turns out the guy running MicMe does come from AKG. So I felt pretty good about actually kind of knowing what I'm talking about. This is one of the more compelling premium USB microphones I've gotten to handle in a while. So, if you want the full scoop, and then also whenever I review a microphone, I actually use it for the review. So if you want to hear what it sounds like, and you can kind of compare against some of my other videos, or even against the podcast that you're listening now, where I normally record on this old, aged dynamic mic, you can get a handle on what MicMe has to offer. But again, it's always funny in Techland, the price on this, and I got a bunch of comments like, wow, that mic is so expensive. And you're like, I've got mics that you could add another 0 onto the end of that price tag, and they'd still be considered budget options in the world of recording. So it's always an interesting conversation. Audio gear, audio guys, it's like camera equipment. If you're really into high quality photography and photo pro, spending $1,000 on a lens is not an extravagance. It's kind of a mainstream price for a really nice piece of glass. Recording equipment, audio gear is the same, but we've been conditioned by these $30 USB plug-in mics. Oh, wow. More than $40? Who would spend that much on a microphone? Vazik goes, do you even mic, brah? And then wrapping up, housekeeping. I came to this one late. This is a product that actually launched like middle of the year, kind of late into the year, 2020. But the folks over at MSI sent over a Creator 15. And this is quickly becoming, whenever a product is kind of build creator style, this is quickly becoming my favorite class of laptops. So yes, there's a lot of shakeup happening in the laptop space. The M1 is an amazing chipset from Apple, but there is still a lifestyle to a professional grade workstation style laptop that I hope we can maintain, the ability to easily repair and upgrade, the ability to add ports like an Ethernet jack, and have extra equipment that people can use to make sure that their pro content, pro work is being accomplished. So this is like the best hardware I've ever used from MSI. It comes at a time where the laptop space is getting disrupted by other technologies that I'm excited about, like ARM chipsets. But there's also still something to be said for a machine that's built for pros and not just pro as a label that means it's more expensive. So I'm going to be very critical in 2021 of products that are labeled pro. Like MSI isn't even labeling this pro, they're calling it a creator. So again, when you're targeting a specific demographic, I feel like those claims from the manufacturer need to be examined in a very specific way. So, let's see. That's housekeeping. I'm done with housekeeping. Sentinel 909, all Greg, Sparta's tech review, Fuji, where our budget options are $900. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Mr. Carroll, where's the V70? Man, I really wish. I know I'm the LG guy, but I don't know that I'll be on tap for any like of the early stuff. Like the Explorer program is a kind of a different vibe from LG, so I'll be catching up at some point. But yeah, we didn't see too much news about that. We're going to be talking about LG after we get through the Reddit plug. Let me get this out of the way. Shortest housekeeping ever. I'm talking really fast. And Heikki saying I'm faster than Usain Bolt. I don't know about that. Oh, there was one other thing too. So CES is this week. I'm obviously kicking off this podcast this week, starting it off with kind of a conversation about like the earliest announcements that are coming from Vegas and from, I guess, the international tech community. TK and I have been doing a series of live streams that we're trying to turn into a regular podcast. And it's called The Best of Our Week. It streams here on my Twitch and then also on TK's YouTube channel. And so I feel like this last episode, we called it Looking Forward to CES 2021, and we didn't talk a whole lot about the companies that we were anticipating being at CES. So this coming Thursday, we're going to have a more cohesive wrap-up of the announcements that we saw and the things that we thought were exciting. And then I'm going to be working with Newegg for a live stream on Friday. So Thursday and Friday, keep those days in mind, and I'll have more to say on my Twitter when we've got times narrowed down so we can put together some cool content, especially just the good wrap-up stuff. CES kind of front loads a whole bunch of exciting announcements, and then I feel there are a lot of times where we miss the fun smaller companies. The really crazy experiments, the out there consumer tech that, it's a tiny little booth in a dark corner of the show floor. And with the CES being digital, with the CES being remote, I am actually concerned that that's going to be an even harder conversation for some of those smaller companies that kind of rely on journalists being all in one place to get any kind of announcement out. Because again, it's reading press releases is not the thing anymore. And everyone say good morning, TK Bay, jumping in to say, hey, I just plugged our stream, so I hope you're down for this Thursday, man. I know we talked about it. We're gonna make it happen. So, all of the stories that we're going to be talking about, everything's going to be linked. The show notes will be on somegadgetguy.com for this week's podcast. You can catch all of that on the website, including all of the articles and videos and reviews that I put together. Should be a lot of really interesting conversation. I'm going to be running around like crazy. I'm on 2 cups of coffee already. I was up at 5 a.m. I'm already exhausted. The thing that's also kind of a bummer, one of the things I hate about covering press conferences and keynotes at CES is I'm sitting, and I already feel like I'm ratcheted up, like I'm in CES mode, but I'm definitely not going to be getting the steps on my fitness tracker. You know, like a 25 to 35,000 steps a day. That's not going to happen this year. I kind of rely on that to start off. Like, my yearly fitness regime is, hiking all over Vegas. All right. We do need to cover some heavy. I actually accidentally had it up there on my web browser when I went back to talk about talk about our live stream with TK. Yeah, Chatty Boy. Speaking of fitness trackers, apparently OnePlus made one. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I might not be able to tackle OP, but I did mention the Nord, so I feel like that's our OnePlus. TK TK says, I feel you, man. So on TK's channel, and I wish I was on this review list, the Tick folks apparently sent him a treadmill. I would love to be covering CES from an office treadmill. All right. We had a very challenging week last week here in the United States. I lost about 2 whole days of productivity from doom scrolling as we saw the ramifications of disinformation campaigns strike at our nation's capital in one of the most grotesque ways that I feel we could imagine. Lives were lost, and our sympathies and our concerns go out to the families of people that, whatever their political ideology or their backgrounds, this is a reflection of our country that I don't think many of us are ever exposed to. I am very sensitive to the commentary, especially from like the politicians I side with. Especially the politicians from my side of the aisle, who seemed to be more interested in a comfortable conversation about what it means to be an American than directly confronting what we were all witnessing immediately. The news feeds and the videos and the live streams that were coming out. And I feel like this is one of those opportunities that our citizens can kind of examine and digest. When a politician comes out and like, this is not who we are, this is not America. And I'm very sensitive to those whose experiences very much resemble that this is kind of the country that they've always lived in. The marginalized communities that aren't as well represented as they probably should be in our political process. So the flip side of that has been a renewed interest in how we handle the dissemination of information, in how we handle news, and what to do about platforms that act in bad faith. And so I've been very sensitive to this in the past. I feel like deplatforming is a part of this conversation, but needs to be handled with some care, with a little nuance. So, Parler, I think, is becoming this lightning rod of conversation. So this is from the CNET article, but obviously this is news that's spread all over the place. CNET's article was written up by Stephen Shankland, Edward Moyer, and Ian Scher. Parler offline following Amazon, Apple, Google bans over Capitol violence content. The app was used to help organize the Capitol Hill attack, pushing tech companies to reckon with the part they played in the riot. Amazon, Apple, and Google have banned the Parler social networking app from their services and app stores in the wake of Wednesday's attack on the U.S. Capitol by a mob of Trump supporters. Parler has been rife with violent comments since before the attack on the Capitol, and Apple and Google say they'll restore the app only when Parler moderates its service better. Parler chief executive John Matz posted on his service late Saturday that Amazon had informed him it would no longer host his service on its Amazon Web Services platform. The move followed earlier announcements by Apple and Google that they removed the app from their respective app stores as well. So, this is where we then get a hail of commentary from right-leaning individuals complaining about free speech. And the frustrating thing about this is, if you were in high school civics, it would be pretty easy to explain how this really isn't a First Amendment issue. I can commiserate with some notion of the freedom of speech, but the First Amendment is entrenched in our Bill of Rights as a protection from the government. What's frustrating about this is the gross hypocrisy surrounding commentary from people who are concerned about speech, but mostly concerned about speech acting in bad faith. What we see from Parler and what we see from this community has been a lockstep, an immediate and aggressive campaign to muddy the waters and spread bad information. And their main argument is it shouldn't be illegal for us to lie to you about what's going on. This is a unique challenge that I can't believe our founding fathers could have anticipated when they were drafting the Bill of Rights. And it's one that we need to find savvier ways of evolving and combating this kind of weaponized misinformation. This is a story I feel is already trying to fall into that comfortable, we lived through it, we'll learn from it, and we'll move on. I don't feel our democracy survives if we continue to kind of gloss over how damaging the effects of this kind of cultish behavior are. We started out the pandemic talking about how disastrous these misinformation campaigns can be. Some early podcasts in 2020, I was at a loss. I'm not sure how to combat the spread of bad information. How once this idea takes root in an undereducated population, it is a humongous amount of work to untangle and bring someone back from that kind of bad programming. We started the year out talking about anti-vaxxers. How do we combat anti-vaxxers? It's bad information. And it's bad information that seems to take root in wealthy, upper middle class communities. I lived in a neighborhood where, younger professionals were really hippy dippy. I mean, left leaning, college educated, liberal folks, but really concerned about what they put in their bodies, going to their yoga classes and drinking boba tea. I don't know how to reach those people. Those are not my people, but on every other social issue, healthcare, education, infrastructure, we would tacitly agree. Then we followed these campaigns into some terrifying situations in the UK. 5G cell phone towers getting set on fire because people there had been fed bad information about the effects of a new technology. And they used that bad information to actually destabilize their own communications network. And I want you to think about that from the outside looking in. Let's say you were a hostile nation state and you had a huge cyber warfare and propaganda department in your government that was really good at spreading divisive information on public platforms. Excuse me. How happy would you be If you could convince one of your rival nation states, the citizens of one of your rival countries, to set their own telecommunications equipment on fire, I feel like that would be a profound win for your cyber propaganda department. All the way down to enabling some of the most vulnerable members of our society. I don't want to write that off. There is a component of this nationalism which is born out of neglect and is born out of undereducation, reduced job opportunities, and the best members of their community fleeing to go to more wealthier prospects. It's a horrific downward spiral that, I look at living in California, where we give way more money to the federal government than we receive. And I want my tax dollars to go to, areas that need revitalization, areas that need better schools, areas that need better healthcare. But unfortunately, those areas are often run by right-leaning individuals that dump that money into tax breaks for the wealthy. I don't want my tax dollars subsidizing already rich people, already profitable corporations. So we get to the events that happened last Wednesday, and they're shocking and they're terrible. And we see the gross hypocrisy on display of people flying flags that are not the flag of the United States. A Blue Lives Matter flag is not the United States flag. And if you come from a military background, a military family, or you were even just a Boy Scout like I am, that symbol, the symbology of the flag of the United States of America, is carefully protected, guarded, and it means something to those communities. To see it rendered as a black and white image with a blue line waving at our nation's capital under the shadow of a gallows that was being hung while people chanted for capturing the vice president of the United States, and in one of the worst conflicts, one of the lives lost, was a group of Trump supporters chanting USA while they dragged a police officer and beat him, and he later passed away. I don't understand how anyone can look at all of that and not consider it the gross hypocrisy that it was. It had this movement never had anything to do with the thin blue line of protecting the police. It was only ever ginned up as a controversy to get people to rally against the protections for other marginalized communities in our nation. It was only ever generated by foreign bots on social media to have us at each other's throats. This entire campaign is nothing more than cyber warfare designed to destroy us from within. So earlier in the year, I didn't know. I really didn't know. I think it's dangerous to, cut someone off YouTube or deplatform someone from Twitter. It can kind of turn that individual or that organization into a martyr. But increasingly, it seems we don't have many other tools at our immediate disposal to try and undo the damage that's caused by people that act out of their own selfishness. Someone trumpeting around, whining or crying about free speech, but their main goal in sharing their speech is to share bad information that really only benefits them. Again, it's a popularity contest. I need a platform so that I can tell you that you're right, even though it goes against everything that we have for evidence around us. And I profit from that. That's not speech, in earnest. That is not someone who's interested in really joining or contributing to this process. That is someone who is out for their own gain, their own personal benefit at the expense of lives, at the expense of hundreds of thousands of people who have passed from a terrible disease, at the expense of a political process that has existed throughout our nation's history without conflict. And now we don't have that streak. That streak has ended. Or to misrepresent the goals of the opposition, or to misrepresent the ideals of this country. And I'm still not sure how to fix that. But I'm not too upset about private corporations considering their own bottom line and in their own self-interest saying, we don't need a Parler. Parler isn't it. And for those of you that are upset about Parler, there are some concerning insights into the company. This was shared by one of my pals on Twitter, Dexter Cumberbatch. And let me just kind of click into this real quick. This is from a Reddit post, and again, I'm not putting this as high confirmed. This is sort of a rumor or a leak into how this organization has been run. But when I link this in the show notes, apparently the way the way that security APIs were employed on Parler, it was tremendously easy not only to circumvent them, but then to also set up admin rights. And with admin rights, get into the private information of people that wanted to be verified citizens on Parler. When you signed up for Parler, you would have to supply some personal information to verify who you were. It seems that information was very easily compromised. And one of the ways that we've seen local law enforcement agencies and the FBI go after people who were at the Capitol on Wednesday is because that information was pretty easily accessed through some terrible, terrible maintenance on the Parler service. It's not. It's very cavalier to say, well, if you're deplatformed on YouTube, you need to go and make your own YouTube with blackjack. That's kind of the truth of this. When we're talking about private companies and private corporations, they have no obligation to publish your content. And it's hilarious, again, where conservatives have been so upset about Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, when that's one of the few things that's actually enabling and protecting a lot of this rhetoric for publication online. Without Section 230 of the CDA, which Trump really wanted to get rid of, he actually wouldn't have been able to be as vocal on social media. But it goes beyond just, you're going to make a conservative Twitter. Sure. But they didn't do their due diligence. They didn't do their cybersecurity. They didn't do their consumer protections. They made this crazy Wild West of disinformation, campaign information spreading, trying to delegitimize a fair election, that there is no evidence to support any kind of wrongdoing or misdoing from the opposition side. It's horrific. And then they didn't even seal it up right. So from the liberal side of this, in trying to bring people back into reality, trying to get better information out into the hands of citizens and consumers, trying to see who we can save from this terrible, terrible fault in social media, the companies that profited from this freak show, treating it like it was just another typical tabloid cat fight. But then, now that Trump is on his way out, we at Facebook really don't like him now, and we'll take his pages offline. Now that the damage has been done, now that the horses have long since left the stable, we're going to get real serious about closing those barn doors. But when it came time for people to make their own Twitter for conservatives, they made it in the worst way possible, in the leakiest way possible, and they didn't really shore up any of these protections. It was never a platform in earnest to protect conservative speech. It was a gimmick. It was yet another propagandized tool for bots to infest and to spread bad info. And again, to the benefit of people that had wealthy backers. As another example of class warfare and harming the people who were most vulnerable in our society, and convincing them that the bad guy wasn't their neighbor, or that the bad guy wasn't the people taking money out of their infrastructure, that the bad guy was their neighbor. Don't look at us, billionaires and mega corporations that are going to be profiting off of your misery and trying to reduce, your effective earnings and not helping you with healthcare or minimum wage or better infrastructure for schools. No, it's not us. It's that guy down the street who thinks you should pay taxes. Yeah, that's the problem. That guy. We more than anything else, I yearn for some kind of bridge building, for some kind of handshaking, bringing communities together, finding those disagreements and working towards outcomes that show some genuine effort and compromise. But that won't happen so long as, well, we just want to move on to the healing. We don't need to look too closely into anything that went down or all the lawmakers or off-duty cops who were at the Capitol or any of those situations. No, we just need to move on to the healing. There can be no healing without justice. These wounds won't heal if they aren't disinfected first. And that's, Parler shows us sort of a baby step towards a future where we need to be hyper vigilant over the interests of mega corporations and telecommunications companies and social media. But at least it starts us on a conversation of how do we spread better information? It's not the answer. It's not the solution. We're nowhere near a solution, but we've at least started the conversation. I wanted us to be talking about this more during, the 5G issues in the UK. I wanted us to be talking about this more sort of at the height of the anti-vaxxer craziness. I wanted us to be talking about this more when we were all laughing at that documentary on Netflix about flat earthers. This cultish craziness landed an insurrection, an armed insurrection assault on our nation's capital. Now's the right time. The right time to talk about this would have been back in the Nixon administration, Ailes and the birth of like Fox News and cable news and stuff like that. The second best time to address this issue is today. So we should start addressing this today. And as future episodes of this podcast, especially if you've caught any of my live streams or you listen to my podcast, I know I'm largely preaching to a choir of people that, while we might disagree on the specifics of ideologies, left, right, conservative, liberal, I feel we can at least all agree, or most of us agree, that there is a profound systemic problem in how we interact with people, how we reach out to communities, how we talk to people who are different than us, and how we come to some kind of general consensus in an age of social media that seeks to divide us for corporations' profits. Outrage traffic generates clicks and eyeballs, and it pits family members against each other. I think we can get back, but it won't happen if we can't start scrubbing out some of that filth. All right, I talked about that a lot longer than I really intended to. I kind of saw the viewership fluctuating a bit as I was going through. I'm upset, and I feel a lot of other people are upset, and CES is going to be a really fun diversion from being upset. But we're coming back to these topics to discuss them seriously moving forward. Jeremy Moat brought up a super chat, and I need to bring this up because this is one of the concerns I have with deplatforming in general is the death of Parler might push them to Signal or the deep web. Tracking potential threats might get harder as a result, especially for how poorly secured Parler was. I'm sure it's going to be really easy to track what conversations were happening on Parler because of all the cybersecurity issues that I brought up. I should really reach out to Shannon Snubs and see if she kind of has any insight on that, because the stories that I'm seeing especially coming out of Reddit, are kind of hilariously terrifying. If anyone who was kind of getting involved with Parler, it's very likely that a ton of private information was just freely accessible. And again, if we care about our family and friends, we should still care about stuff like cybersecurity. Sorry, I'm way behind on the chat. There are some incredible conversations and some incredible comments here. I do want to thank everybody who sort of stuck with that stream. I wasn't intending to monologue as long as I just did. And know that I'm kind of quickly just kind of chewing through some of these comments. I won't be able to kind of do my normal, let's read them and respond, read them and respond. I'm sorry, and I just saw this comment from Raul Silva. You should make a new channel to talk about politics stuff with technology. And no. I viscerally disagree with YouTube's policy of making YouTube channels hyper-specific. So when I make a podcast, it's tech and politics, tech and lifestyle, tech and benchmarking, whatever it might be. It's tech. I run a general purpose tech channel, and this is a part of the conversation regarding general tech. Literally, our pocket computers enabling content and access and conversations. And it's just the same to me as if we were benchmarking a smartphone or if we were torture testing, a smartwatch. I mean, it's all the same. And YouTube is a major part of this problem. That the way that YouTube fosters an algorithm of tentpole popularity, encourages, wacky thumbnails. And, if you're talking about phones most of the time, you should set up a separate channel to talk about headphones. No, I can't. So, burn to notice, not a fun conversation, but one that needs to be said. Once we as a society try, no matter how messy it is, to reason with each other instead of tearing down and picking sides, then we can stand up to the real threat of Big Brother business. And the Sentinel 909, and thank you for saying this. I don't feel like you took too long or were preachy. Even as a European, I think it's an important discussion to have. There is a lot of other more positive news in the tech and politics sphere, and especially coming out of the EU. There was a wonderful story that was published early my morning talking about right to repair. Again, we're seeing interest in a more consumer-friendly and consumer-forward conversation for these types of topics. It's just we've got to weather some of these big storms and at the same time talk about the stuff that makes us excited to be tech citizens. Again, if you're watching a stream like this, it's because you're already a fan of technology, right? Beyond just the things that I can kind of do with it, the tech itself is a form of entertainment, and that's what gets me lit up. I feel we can get back to sharing more of that love while we also address the major glaring issues with our respective gadgets and platforms and services. And if we can't sustain both of those conversations on one platform or on one channel, then I feel we will truly be lost. Again, I know people want me to just go, oh, wow, look at this new phone. It's like so amazing. And it's like fast. And did you see the Geekbench score? Yeah, I'm going to do that too. But I don't want my love and fandom of this to also hurt people, which happens kind of regularly and makes me very sad at the application of our fandom of our hobby. So I want to shout out the subreddit real quick, and then it's on to some CES news. Every podcast has a subreddit. Mine is no exception. I am so proud of the community over on reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. We are now climbing up to 1,500 members, and every week I'm still, like literally every week, I'm still finding new content creators, new writers, new video editors, people that are excited to share a broader conversation about technology, consumer electronics, smartphones, gadgets, and gizmos. It really is kind of wonderful to watch when I am so frustrated with platforms like YouTube and Facebook that heavily manipulate the flow of subscriptions into someone's feed. That is not the reality of the landscape. There are so many people putting more lifestyle into their commentary, and then also larger established channels that might be struggling. with the sort of tech platform that YouTube has created. Someone whose channel is still real big, still doing really well. Glowing Rectangles is a community that just wants to share content that people feel deserves more attention. Maybe that attention isn't the popularity that they once had on YouTube. Maybe that attention is someone has under 1,000 subscribers and they're trying to monetize. Reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. The number one story is something we talked about a couple weeks back on the podcast, and I'm so excited and so happy to see GSM Arena. Here, I'm actually going to click this full screen if my internet can handle it. I know it's a picture. Who knows? My network could come crashing down. GSM Arena, we are glad to share that we now have full control over our channel, content ownership, and monetization. Expect a lot of backlogged videos to be uploaded in the following days. Around Christmas, we made public the issues we were facing due to the hijacking of our channel's monetization by an unknown perpetrator. Thank you for the comments of support in the video and on Twitter. It turns out going public with this was the right move, as it was a lot more helpful than trying to resolve the issue quietly with YouTube support. Just hours after publishing the video, we got a chance to take control of the hijacked MCN account. Once we were in, we disconnected our channel from the MCN and we resumed full control of the channel. Today, some 10 days later, we are now also fully set up for monetizing the channel with AdSense directly. As to who helped us take over the MCN account, we have no idea who it was, and YouTube support claims it wasn't them. It might remain a mystery forever, but whoever it was, thank you. This is a critical. This is the top story on Glowing Rectangles. It was another critical and frustrating example of sort of the hands-off, on-the-rails, automated Google policy and how it responds to issues on their platform, in that it doesn't. GSM Arena tried with every good faith effort to work through the systems and mechanisms at YouTube for months, or almost a year, in trying to reactivate the monetization on their videos. This is not a small channel. This is a major part of the tech conversation. These are some of the best people writing and testing and reviewing products. Some very close personal friends of mine working over at GSM Arena. And to think that they had been doing this quietly for so long is so disappointing. And to know that they were really never going to get good help. Again, Reddit just recently killed a bunch of problematic subreddits. They didn't do it because it was the right thing to do. They did it because people started making noise about this terrible stuff on their platform. GSM Arena didn't get help until they started making it public that YouTube, the process for fixing a problem on YouTube, is fundamentally broken. Having experienced some issues on very small levels, nothing like what GSM Arena has gone through, it's useless. It is designed to make you feel powerless. It is designed to make you give up. Well, nothing we can do. It's a shame. It really is a shame. I wish we could help you. I mean, it's our platform, and we know every nook and cranny of it, and we can dig into all the code. And you're verified, so we know who you are. And we can see, like, your websites and your platforms. We're Google. We know everything about, but just wish there was some way we could help. There's just no way we can help. We're powerless. YouTube. It would be nice, but we can't, but it would be nice. So again, I couldn't be happier for GSM Arena finally having this issue solved. Excuse me. I'm going to be doing a ton of talking this week, and I did a lot of talking last week, and I am not sure my voice is going to hold out. So, Simon says, Hypno, it was theft, so why isn't it a serious crime? Well, it's not really theft. Again, our terms of service and the way that things are routed, and they had kind of a funky MCN setup, and the it's a just no way that they could help. But it's not really theft, but it's a cybersecurity issue, and someone compromised this account. And technically the FBI should probably get involved, but it's just, we wash our hands of it because there's just nothing we could do. Real quick, let's just highlight some of the other top stories on glowing rectangles. Jason from Painfully Honest Tech, some concerns over his AirPods Max, and I think are we calling this Watergate? Is that the funny? Because every time there's a problem with something, it's a gate. Like Bend Gate, Battery Gate. But Watergate, from the Nixon administration, is the progenitor of gate suffix being applied to any controversy. I just think it's funny if the AirPods have their own Watergate. I still really haven't gotten my hands on AirPods Max, but having used Pro headphones where I sweat a lot into the ear cups, I would be real concerned over the accumulation of moisture on consumer electronics, not only for the health of the electronics, but the health of your ears, where that kind of moisture collector, probably pretty good for culturing and growing funky stuff that you wouldn't want going into your ears. So Jason had some tough words to say. Literally, the name of the title is Return Your AirPods Max Now. The number 3 spot is a doofy looking guy with a punchable face talking about some laptop thing. MSI Creator 15, I guess, is the name of some wacky laptop. I don't know. I mean, creators, all they need is a fused shut tablet that can't be upgraded or repaired. So I don't know what he's on about. Ooh, creators might want expandable storage and the ability to repair a gadget and only need to unscrew a bunch of screws to fix things. I hate that guy. Moving right along, a few other videos that got voted up. iPhone 11 review from Poetic Wiz with 121 subscribers in 4th place. Again, always happy to see my buddy Jeff, LFA Reviews, for his first look at the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro, Nord N10. Jason also talking about some issues, some personal stuff on his channel about why he almost quit producing on YouTube. We've got Mitesh with 5,000 subscribers taking a look at a Pixel 4a versus a OnePlus 7T. 2 phones that you can buy right now for around $350. There's my microphone review, and I had to wrap it up with my buddy TK looking at the Mobvoi home gym treadmill. Get your steps in from home. These are the folks that make the TicWatch. I really still do like my TicWatch, though I'm anxious to get the update for my TicWatch. I would be real happy to have a home fold-up treadmill right now. Get my steps in for CES. I definitely miss. I'm gonna miss my steps this year. All right. So who wants to talk about some CES stuff? Because I feel like we started out pretty heavy and I went a little long on the heavy, and it's definitely time. Corcoran, I should do a live stream from a treadmill. I wish I had a treadmill. I would totally do that. I'd set this up, maybe rearrange the office so my standing desk is over here instead of behind me, because the desk that you see back there I use more for production than I do for actually working and standing these days. It would be pretty sweet. It would be really cool to shift that around. I just need to find a good solution for sweating all over my office. That was gross. So, here, let me get this out of the way. Excuse me. What do we want to start with? Because I feel like, you know what? I kind of want to kick off with Panasonic. Panasonic had a keynote this morning. I got up early just to kind of check out what they were talking about. I need to get into... See, this is what's going to be tricky, is when we get to TCL. TCL has a bunch of stuff that I'm silly excited to check out. Their keynote ran right up to me prepping for the podcast, and I wasn't able to download their presentation, their B-roll and their keynote presentation. So we're going to have to just do press photos for TCL, unfortunately. If I try to download it now, where I'm barely hanging on to a stable connection for this, I don't think I'll be able to get the video. But let me go into because I can pull this up here. I'm going to get rid of this, and I want to pull up Panasonic, and that is in my downloads, and Panasonic. Okay. All right, let's see if I can make this happen. My connection's in the yellow on OBS right now. I'm very nervous. Very nervous. Oh, you know what? Let me keep it as like a little window. That's kind of cute. I'm gonna see if I can not make it block my face. Okay.
Center in Tokyo.
So,
and if ever a year
Panasonic,
needed
this
an
is the thing
advocate for balance
that
and
kind of kills
stability,
me.
it was 2020. Enter Sakura Kokomai. Sakura, a rising
Hey,
star
look at that.
in
It's almost
karate,
like some kind of
who
pro
will represent
news
the United
show.
States at the Tokyo Olympics, stepped up in the middle of quarantine
I
to
should
offer
turn down
free
the
virtual
volume on that. Sorry. RIP headphone users. I'm so sorry. I'm doing it live. Hold on. I'm gonna mute everything that. So I'm really stoked because I think a lot of companies have. It's gonna be so funny when I edit the audio version of this podcast. I'm really excited. A lot of these companies have done a much better job of presenting a more cinematic kind of a keynote, sort of a press conference, and this is what we see here during this Panasonic press conference is really exciting. I mean, again, they're putting together this broadcast, they're putting together this presentation. It is really smooth. I mean, it's a really polished piece of media. The thing that makes me itchy is normally I would go to like a booth and then just cover a handful of products or like what's the new announcement. I understand all of the lifestyle, like, hey, this is the Panasonic Foundation and this is our initiative with Olympic athletes and we're really going to be for, 2021. And I appreciate all of the human side of this and I appreciate all of those stories, but it makes it difficult to kind of untangle part of the conversation, the immediate press release, the new products that are coming out, some of those initiatives when they're all rolled up together. And I believe this is a presentation. I mean, like if we were to sit and watch it all, it'd be about 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes of time I'm kind of stuck in a live stream and sort of watching this unfold. But what I wanted to skip to, let me see if I can get there. Obviously, Panasonic, they've got a huge infrastructure in battery production. So they're opening up a whole new line of battery manufacturing for gigacells. But I wanted to get to this. Come on. This is something I've been complaining about for a really long time, is the way that the automotive industry has sort of washed their hands of new tech. And Panasonic is showing off some stuff that I think could be really interesting. Actually, let me just kind of full screen this here. And let me go back to the video source. So they're looking at an evolution. So they showed off some audio stuff, but it's this right here. They're working with display and projection partnerships that might enable AR-based heads-up displays. So using some of the same sensor technology that we see in self-driving cars, applying this to, an augmented reality windshield. And this is what I've been dreaming of for years now. I feel like we've had the technology to start incorporating better co-pilot hardware, better ways that we can feed good information to drivers like we do to fighter pilots, right? Like these smart applications that can kind of identify certain commonalities, bicyclists and other vehicles and pedestrians. And then knowing what we know about mapping data, being able to paint routes onto the road in front of us. We are so far behind in automotive tech where so many vehicles still require you to look off the road just to see how fast you're going. Like that's terrible design. We want better than that. And even where like Tesla's solution of like, well, let's just put a giant tablet in the middle of your dashboard. Not as good as a proper heads-up display that keeps the driver's eyes focused on their windshield and hopefully focused with sort of a farther vision, right? If you focus the image to make it feel like it's floating 5 feet, off your windshield in front of your car, that is incredible. Like, it was one of the things that made me so excited about the Focals by North, was having a heads-up display that kind of floated in my field of view, but it wasn't like I had to close focus and look at something like it was right on my eye. It felt like it was out in the world in front of me. And that's what we need for the future of automotive tech. Car companies have kind of just, oh, well, there's just nothing we can do. Tech in cars and distracted drivers and, I don't know, state laws. I guess if you put your phone on the left side of your steering wheel, it's legal in some states, but you have to put it on the right side of your steering wheel in other states. And then we go to shop a new car and we get these terrible, like, in-dash entertainment systems that are so distracting. I'll call out, I like the cars, but I hate their stereo. Nissan. We drive a Nissan Sentra, and basically now it has just become a Bluetooth speaker connection for our phones. Like, if I want to try and use the navigation system in that car, it is so painful. It's laggy, unresponsive. I tap something, maybe it registers the tap, maybe it doesn't. Trying to, like, search for music if I've got it stored, like I've got a flash drive in the car. Trying to find that, so miserable. Voice commands that take, like, multiple prompts to get through. And, like, anytime I interact with it, it's like, I know I could have done this 10 times faster from my phone. So it's up to actual tech companies. Panasonic developing some strategic partnerships with the automotive industry, with projection partners, display manufacturers, and incorporating this all into hardware that will hopefully be consumer accessible at some point. Bazikos 8, I still remember Mama Gadget Guy bashing Tesla tablets. So my mom loves her Tesla, and she loves that her car is getting new features via software upgrades. My mom's a computer scientist. She's got a degree in programming in comp sci. So for her, it's like, well, why would I ever want to buy a car that doesn't get better and upgraded over time? I love my Tesla, but it is the one thing that kind of wigs her out is I'm operating a motor vehicle, and now I need to interact with a totally featureless, smooth glass touchscreen display to get things done. It's still like the fundamental problem of incorporating more data and interactive tech into the driving experience. So if that tech is now like what Panasonic was showing off there, where it's more about being a co-pilot, using some of this software that we've done for self-driving vehicles, I'm much more excited about that. That's really cool. I don't know why I had to whisper for that. Nick Fell, tech in cars is always behind the curve for very good reason. It needs to last and work for tens of thousands of hours in more extreme temperatures than traditional tech use cases. Further, an automotive development cycle is 5+ years. That said, basic HUDs have been in cars for a while now. Volvos have had it for at least a few years. You can name like 4 companies, and none of them put heads-up display into consumer accessible, mainstream, bread and butter fleet vehicles. I think the closest was Hyundai. Hyundai had one option on one car where there was a plastic screen that was semi-transparent that was up in the driver's eye line just to move like how fast you were going to your line of sight. I don't care if it's in a premium Volvo or in a Mercedes or in a Cadillac. And then it's an options package of an already expensive vehicle. It needs to be in a Honda Fit. That tech needs to be in a Nissan Versa. That's where it's real. It's not real if it's just this like plaything for the wealthy. So, there is liability. This is the main thing. You're absolutely right. All this tech needs to last. We can make it. We put it into fighter jets. Like there's already an industry of improving our interactions with technology and sensors and information gathering devices and cameras. Like it's already there. You already look at it in a Tesla, it's not impossible. Oh, I'm sorry your car got stolen. No way we can track it. Oh, well, if only you could have like a real-time video feed of someone busting open your driver's side window, but that's impossible unless you buy a Tesla, and then it's totally possible and really easy. It's like a really expensive car, but your insurance drops a whole bunch because they're so hard to steal. Oh, it's a shame. I mean, you want to buy this Mercedes, but there's just nothing we can do to help you out. The tech lasting isn't the issue. It's the liability. None of these auto manufacturers want to deal with, distracted drivers or those weird state laws where it's like, there's a screen that's accessible to the driver. That's not allowed because it was a law that was written back in the days of like cars having pop-out DVD players. You remember when that was a thing? That's what they're afraid of. They're not afraid of making something that can last. Well, I don't know if we can make a computer that could run a car for like 5 years. That's hard. No. So if the Mazda 3 has a heads-up display, that's great. Again, I need it on every car. We should be looking for this on every car. Taking your eyes off the road should be illegal on every car. I shouldn't say illegal. Taking your eyes off the road should be unfashionable on every car, not on one line of vehicles with an options package. Like, again, look at your instrument cluster and put it up at eye level on every car is what I'm trying to say. And if the auto manufacturers aren't really going to do it, then I'll highlight Panasonic's work and say that's the pressure we should be putting on every auto manufacturer. They also had a really cute, let me see if I can get back into screen sharing this. Here it is. Here, let me go back into full screening this video. Whoop. Nope, that's the Better Living Spaces, movie night, OLEDs. There were a lot of TV announcements. They have this cool Sound Slayer. Panasonic, I forgot they own like a couple audio brands like Technics. Multi-oven convection, Try Guys. Where did it go? I could have sworn I just had it. Give me 1 second. Minor technical difficulties. Please stand by. Oh, no, go back. There we go. They have a new little production camera. So we're probably going to be seeing some new Lumix, like the G100 just got presented. But this guy looks really neat. It's a 10 megapixel live MOS sensor, a little camera cube built for production and then also for like aerial photography. Like it's built specifically in mind to like be bolted onto the bottom of a drone or to be the brain of like a larger rig, kind of Red camera style, where you can bolt on all of the things that you might need to accomplish a more traditional broadcast, more cinema style broadcast, or if you want to go ultra mobile and throw it on some type of aerial platform. So again, it's always kind of interesting. I do all my work on Panasonic cameras. I have a G85, which I'm doing most of my live streaming off of, and then my G9 is back there. I'm debating whether or not I want to try and grab a GH5, because you can get them a little cheaper used, but I do mostly video work, so I'm not sure I need what the GH5 can do. But again, it's just kind of like, maybe, I don't know, I need another camera body, but I kind of want another camera body. So seeing a company like Panasonic showing off some pretty radical design, just tiny sensor in a box, like, is pretty cool. Again, yeah, like Ariel's saying, it's kind of like a Red Komodo. I like this camera sensor brain modular approach for more professional tools where you get this camera sensor, you slap a lens on it, and then you sort of build the camera that you want. I don't want to pick on them too much. I don't think I can really show this without it cratering my internet connection. Let me pull up my browser. So I just want to draw your attention. This little rectangle right here at the same time that TCL was doing their press release, their press conference, and showing off the TCL 20 and some really cool, like, folding phones and tech and stuff like that, Canon was also doing a press conference at CES, and that's what their press conference looked like. It didn't look great. It looked pretty bad. It was two people standing in front of like a Canon backdrop, like you would see at some sort of like live event, walking the red carpet and someone's going to take your photo. But it was underlit. It was really flat looking. They're Canon. If any company should be able to deliver optics or a look that is sort of more in keeping with the brand's identity, you would think it would be Canon. But their press conference just looked really bad. The audio was kind of echoey and tinny, a little boomy. Not a great showcase for a company that has like one of the highest reputations in professional imaging. I was not very impressed. I wanted to stream some of this for the broadcast. But again, I can't even push play on this without it probably tanking my live stream, and I can't download anything in the background while I'm trying to upload this live stream. But yeah, not the best. Here, let me click out of there now. I feel like there are so many companies like Samsung and LG, amazing press conferences. Panasonic had a really good look at all of their products. TCL, great stage and lots of elements and like a really clean presentation for some cutting edge consumer tech. And a company that I learned how to shoot on. Like my first cameras, my film cameras were Canon cameras, and my first digital cameras were Canon cameras. And I just want a reason to go back to Canon. And now in a world where I shoot more video than I do stills, like you were the first that gave us, high quality video on DSLR cameras. And then I fire up their press conference and it's like, that looks worse than what I'm doing here. Like the color is flat and off and it's underexposed and it's too dark and it just makes me sad. From Nick Fell, modularity is cool until you're red and charging through the nose for a standard SSD and an adapter. Pro equipment just costs that much. Live with it. That's a 400% markup. But that's also why I want to see modularity from more than just red. Again, this all gets better with competition, with cages and rigs and battery packs and audio interfaces. And the more that we use just standard connectors to enable all of this, which when you look at that Panasonic, it's super cute. And then everything plugs in with devices and gadgets that are already established in the prosumer and pro broadcast space. I'm not too worried about, oh no, do I have the right rails to connect my red camera sensor to a battery? No, I'm good. I've got a tripod and I just kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'll duct tape it. It's great. From Dank Pickman, Canon not being great there is truly ironic. It's so silly. Burns, don't get me started on Sony's proprietary cards between their own cameras. I did like shooting on an A7 III though. Again, not being as hardcore into mirrorless photography, shooting more video than photos. I could go back to an A7 III. And maybe that really tasty, super large 50 millimeter lens. I enjoyed that muchly. So moving on, I want to save TCL for last because they had one of my favorite surprises. But I guess that means let's fire up Samsung real quick because I liked their press conference. I liked it a lot, but I got to do this and not blow out everyone's hearing. Make sure I can do this and keep it quiet. Let me get this here. All right, did that work? And it's still muted. Hooray! Juan wins the day. Okay. Samsung, again, this was a very good presentation for Samsung lifestyle and consumer tech. The big announcements for phones and tablets and computers, I mean, that's not really CES's bread and butter anymore. And Samsung knows that they'll do an Unpacked, and everyone will just watch their own Unpacked. But what I loved was, so I'm freezing on. Hold on, let me scooch this back just a little bit. Come on. Let me see if I can find. I should have paused right when I saw it. Here, I'm just going to play it from there again. When you go to the Samsung booth at a trade show or the LG booth, one of the things that I really love about the way that they set up their marketing at these is that it's usually a big, wide open space where they'll set up rooms and zones. Some of them, like if it's for audio and TV and video equipment, they'll put them into like enclosed spaces so you can get a better sense of what like the audio tech might sound like, free of the noise of the show floor. And so doing their live presentation where it's all on Steadicam rigs and it's floating, the president and head of Samsung Research, Sebastian Sung, this is very much like what a Samsung booth experience is like when you show up in person. It's why their booths are always so much fun to interact with. Because, you know, I remember trade shows past, like when I started covering CES, like a tech booth at CES would be these like poorly lit white countertops with just rows of gadgets. And you would have to like kind of shove and elbow your way in and set up a tripod. And then you just be kind of like manhandling this gadget. All videos were just disembodied hands of people talking about stuff in the worst shooting conditions possible. And then, you know, like I want to credit Huawei, Samsung, LG. They started opening up, you know, their show floor experience, and they started really leaning into how broad these consumer companies are. You know, like LG, it's TVs and washers and dryers and, you know, microwaves. I still never got my hands on the LG beer brewing kit. I want that. I'm sure the beer probably isn't that great. I still want one. So setting up the Samsung press conference to resemble this, it was kind of nice, you know, especially from my experience where it's like, I'm not going to get to experience this in person. I'm not going to get to see this in real life this year. It was like just this little like homecoming of, oh, I have my issues with Samsung as a company, but I do like their trade show presentations. So let me kind of skip through because they were showing off a lot of family and lifestyle tech. Obviously, TVs are a huge deal at CES. I'm not going to be leaning into TV tech too much, but lots of mini LED, showcasing some of the work that's being done on micro LED, and then getting into different like OLEDs and high quality consumer applications and high quality consumer video. But, you know, so like here it is. It's a self-lit inorganic LED. Okay. I guess those are a bunch of words that describe a TV that I'm sure has cool color. Owning a Samsung TV, I can tell you I'm not super thrilled with the Samsung software experience on their really nice and expensive televisions, especially for how my TV now serves me a bunch of ads, even though I spent a lot of money on it. But I wanted to get to Samsung Health. That was a good presentation. I'm still cranky that I'm not getting my steps. I could probably talk about that more. Here it is. Let me go back. Both LG and Samsung, you know, if you needed droids in your life, like Star Wars style, they're taking the lead on. Come on. They're taking the lead on home robotics. So if you thought a Roomba was cool, well, there's like a new robot vacuum coming from Samsung. And what's this? I'm pulling out my phone and I'm looking at this tracking shot because there's these little cameras that help this droid vacuum roll around. It kind of looks like tank tread on an R2 unit, and this is kind of interesting for a couple of reasons. But one, using LiDAR and cameras, this is going to be more. It's going to be able to navigate more easily. So you get like a security alert. Like right now, what I'm showing on the live stream is like dogs and cats fighting all over someone's dining room and knocking over food. And so this guy pulls out his phone and he tells his little robot to go and clean it up. But because of these cameras and these LiDAR sensors, the robot itself is much more easily able to navigate obstacles. Again, Roombas have gotten a lot better and you can set up zones. But now what we're trying to do is make this process a bit more automated so that as the robot is going through a living room, it itself can properly distinguish between parts of a carpet, parts of a hardwood floor, and then other obstacles in the environment to get around. Now, what I also think is kind of cool, and this kind of dovetails with an announcement from Ring that we talked about a couple weeks back, is when you fire up a little robot in your home that has cameras on it and you can interact with those cameras over, like a cell phone, you also kind of double down on home security. You get an alert, maybe, like your home security system detects like a window's been broken. You can fire up your little Samsung robot vacuum and go and send it over there like some kind of surveillance drone. That kind of thing I think is fascinating. I have a lot more trust in Samsung incorporating this kind of camera technology than say like Amazon, trying to sell cheaper drones that might fly around in my home with cameras affixed to them. It's funny, like our brand, the feelings we have, because this isn't like based in any kind of fact. It's not a hard, fast rule. I trust Samsung and they've demonstrated security, and Ring is it's not rational. This is just an emotional reaction to my experiences with different brands and different products and different services. But it's funny, like I somehow have more trust in a robot vacuum camera array being able to surveil my home when I'm not there than a flying security drone from Ring. So, I really like this idea though. The silliness of, I got a security alert and I'm going to push go on an aerial drone that can fly around my home just seems like a product too niche. Do you know what I mean? Like drones will get better and, cameras will get better and your ability to improve this kind of thing is going to get better. So buying the first generation of a Ring drone in your home just doesn't feel right yet. But then, robot vacuums are pretty, established. Roombas are pretty established. Like that tech doesn't radically improve. It feels like a safer purchase. So then knowing that you got kind of the same rolling camera experience that can kind of like vibe through your home, like I don't know, it's funny. Like I'm failing to properly explain myself here, but I like the idea of a vacuum that's cleaning up around my home and can give me security info better than a standalone drone that flies through the air. So from Hickey85, that puppy was bullying the cat. Not a good message, Samsung. That's hilarious. From Aditya, quote, I trust Samsung, Some Gadget Guy 2021. Simon says, Hypno, pick up your trash. You have 20 seconds to comply. I always use more RoboCop in my home electronics and in my home cleaning details. Samsung had like a shotgun approach to all of their consumer techie stuff. That was the one that kind of stood out the most to me. They're showing off right now, if you're still watching on the live stream, they're showing off like this like kind of floating camera system. It's like a smart display, but it's on a Lazy Susan and a gimbal arm so that it can kind of like follow you as you're doing a presentation or a Zoom call or something like that. When it comes to things that aren't phones, actually, even when it comes to phones, Samsung's approach definitely seems to be, we'll just throw a whole bunch of stuff at the wall and hopefully like one or two of these things stick. And those two things that do stick, great. But everything else was just kind of like this crazy experiment. And it feels like Samsung of old having these kinds of experiments out there. Again, in the live stream, they've got a robot with an arm that can like walk around and put dishes in a dishwasher and is picking up dirty laundry. It's Oh, they even showed the robot pouring you a glass of wine for when you need to unwind at the end of the day. Like I'd be for a robot butler. That could be really fun. I don't believe it works like they show in these kinds of conditions. Not yet anyway. So, yeah, Samsung, always a fun show for a trade show like this. That was vacuum. Again, I was really impressed with their presentation on robot camera security vacuum. Um, well, hold on, I've got to get through the live chat here. I just want to. It's Ask Jeeves, but for real. Boeing bite, but we need a 2-armed robot. I don't know, do we? I mean, like one robot arm that seemed to be doing all that stuff just fine. I know that was a perfectly edited version of what that robot can accomplish, but Samsung wouldn't lie about the capabilities of their robot, right? Right. All right, let's kick into LG. I've got their press conference here too. We can kind of skip through a few things. And again, just going to double check. I'm not blowing out anyone's ears. Excellent. So LG, likewise, there was a lot of just a wide spread of consumer tech. But they did take the wraps off of the new Grams that are going to be coming out. They were showing off, again, this is Brian Kwan, the CEO of LG Electronics. He's got a nice mic rig there. I was very impressed with how they set him up to do some broadcasting. I feel like on a large diaphragm condenser in a wide open space like that room, which is probably kind of echoey, should probably have moved the mic closer to his face. Unless you wanted to put him on a shotgun or a lav, you should, again, proximity is your friend when using a microphone. But, a lot of TV and lifestyle stuff. But of course, the thing that people are really checking out. Ooh, look at that. Did you see how that phone just expanded? Isn't that nifty? That's just a little tease, a little sneak peek. You're watching this LG press conference on a rollable OLED that expands from a phone form factor into a tablet form factor. I loved it that as soon as the LG press conference was done, I saw like all of my Android and gadget blogs. Did you see the LG scrollable? A little less to do with some of the things that they were talking about for the ThinQ home internet. Again, lifestyle tech like better dishwashers, washers, and dryers. Then also some personal care stuff like this LG PureCare. Air filtering and consumer health tech. But I wanted to get to the washers and dryers. Of course, it's LG. Actually, I like my LG washers and dryers, but I don't know how much I need app connection for washers and dryers. 4K OLED TVs. Did they have it in this press conference? I could have sworn they did. Where did it go? Oh, one of the things they did show off, it's not... Oh, I just lost it again, too. Is in one of their OLED TVs coming up is going to be game streaming. So TVs with kind of built-in support for things like Stadia. So again, if people were kind of knocking game streaming, back when we were really hyping up the new Xbox and the new PlayStation, if you're disregarding game streaming, I think you're kind of missing out on where publishers and game developers and consumer electronics companies are going to try and push this stuff. So building Stadia directly into a TV means also, and they just showed on the live stream exactly what I was going to kind of preface, is you're able to immediately point game sharing services at this stuff too. So you don't necessarily need a box computer under your TV if you're connecting this directly with Twitch right into playing a game and having that accessible. But I think this is it. Is this it? They also showed off, I don't know if they did it in this press conference, they also showed off a high quality OLED monitor, which I really want to play with, like one of their really fancy graphics displays with an OLED. But we're going to be seeing, again, another generation of mini LED, micro LED. They've got something here called like nano LCD, nano LED. So lighting, contrast, clarity, all this stuff is going to be the major focus of TVs. I'm not sure like 8K is going to survive the scrutiny over like 4K. But you know, the technology for contrast, color, and clarity, that could still be kind of cool. Also, LG had robots. I think this is like a vacuuming and disinfecting robot. So it just bathes an office or a living room or a gym in UV. We are finding that UV light does a very good job of disinfecting and killing things like the novel coronavirus. So that's pretty cool. One of the PR companies I work with sent over the Samsung UV phone disinfecting box. It's got like a wireless charger on the inside. I'd love to say that I've used it, but Marie kind of took it, and Marie has been real hyped up on clean tech, and she loves disinfecting phones and other like, you know, gadgets and things. Like she threw in Lex's camera. She threw in some of her other like consumer electronic stuff. It's fun. Cleaning gadgets is fun. But yeah, you could just have a robot that just washes everything. Mobile UV lamps. I actually need to see. I have, for a skin condition, I have a medical grade UVB lamp, and it's kind of dangerous stuff. Like you don't want to just play with UV lights. I wonder if like I had like proper goggles on, if I could like use my UVB lamp to like wash over stuff and disinfect it. But they this is what I was trying to get in. This is the new Gram. They're going to a 16:10 near bezel-less design on their newest, lightest laptops. That should be kind of exciting to see. I mean, we were using the Grams a lot at Newegg, and you know, stepping up to higher resolution displays. If you want ultra thin, ultra sleek portable computers, they kind of don't get skinnier than the Gram. So again, this kind of stuff is pretty handy. So I'll be curious to see, like, how does the Gram line evolve in a world of like Apple custom silicon? Oh, and here's the monitor. Okay, so this was also a part of the LG press conference. USB Type-C powered. You could also go DisplayPort, and and just looks real pretty. It's a UHD, so a 4K computer monitor, but this is a part of like their high-end consumer graphics and like for content creation and for stuff like that. And again, I thought it was interesting. They're showing off a VR display from a company that I just got on the communications list at CES, and now I can't remember what the name of that company is. But talking about graphics and video editing and photo editing and stuff like that. Really kind of a really cool step, a really intense step towards some higher quality graphics kit. I want to get this back here. They talk about ThinQ and how all these devices interoperate, and that was pretty neat. But I wanted to get just to the end here. We're into the last minute. And again, this is the GIF that everyone pulled from this press conference. We're wrapping up our presentation. Thank you so much for watching LG at CES. We're going to have so much to share with you in the future, an LG Future, an LG Explorer, and then all of the text of the display kind of runs out, and we close out our show by, I mean, this is the last 30 seconds, so it's going to take like probably another 20 seconds because I think the last thing is at 9, but I don't have a slider that I can accurately scrub to this part of the video. And let me open this up here. So thank you so much, because we're super cool. We're LG CES 2021. And then we scroll our LG scrolling phone closed and make it a regular phone again. And I'm really anxious to play with a solution that isn't a folding phone solution. So again, I'm still not totally sold on plastic screen phones and folding and scrolling, and I like dual display. I've been playing with my Duo a lot, and obviously I've never taken my V60. I rarely take my V60 out of my dual display case, but I like the idea of that scroll action better than folding a screen in half with like a big old crease on the side. So I really want to check that out. Vazikos, thank you. It's a Pimax, the Pimax VR headset. That's what they were showing off there, where it's there. I think it's Pimax. It's really trying to push like a 4K per eye display VR headset. So I mean, been seeing a bunch of comments like this. So Burn Notice is saying when an 8K display from LG costs $30,000, we know we've went wrong somewhere. I feel like, isn't this the cycle though? Like when 4K displays came out, they were insanely expensive, and then like a year later, you could just go to a Costco and buy like a regular TV at a regular TV price that was a 4K display. I don't know. I'm not too anxious about, you know, a new display technology being crazy expensive the first year it's out. I know there are going to be other 8K displays, but I think the argument is always going to be if you go with a Samsung or if you go with an LG, we should be talking about a display technology corporation that invested in their own display tech to offer the best viewing experience, yada, yada, yada. You know, I've been following LG display press conferences and press releases for 15 years. So I'm always kind of interested to see like, well, what is it they're going to do? Because I feel like my TVs are pretty good. I don't feel like I'm missing too much by only having 4K TVs. But, you know, the next time we go to buy a TV, prices will probably have fallen on 8K. So I'll probably end up buying one if it's the normal price of a normal TV. And from Aditya, I'm going to hold off on folding and rollable phones for a while. I need a reliable phone that can take borderline abuse on a daily basis. My display is switched off 85% of the time anyways. And Boeing Bite, wait until 8K content. Yeah, that's probably not bad advice either. You know, it is kind of funny, you know, like it's taken us a while even just to get good, consistent 4K content. Like I've got a handful of Blu-rays in my collection that I've had to rip because we have a regular PlayStation 4 and that doesn't even support 4K Blu-ray. And so then I have to stream it off of my NOS to my Chromecast. And that's how we've been able to get the best possible quality 4K content to our 4K TVs. I mean, yeah, 4K streaming is a thing, but you know, I'm looking at, I'm looking like I've got a like the Superman, the original Donner Superman film. I had to get the 4K Blu-ray. You know, like I want that kind of a viewing experience for one of my favorite movies. So that was LG. Now I want to fire up. Unfortunately, I can't do the live stream. I couldn't download the TCL press conference to do this here. Man, I'm still in the yellow on OBS. So I'm hoping this live stream hasn't been too stuttery and too choppy. Excuse me. Simon says, Hypno, you will believe a man can fly. So TCL took the reps. I mean, we already kind of had some of the news out there for the TCL 20. There's going to be a TCL 25G. The TCL 25G is kind of an interesting beast. Let me go into screen share here for just a second, just to kind of do some of the photos while I talk about this. Display greatness. Do I need details? Can I get rid of the details? Are you going to let me? Come on. There we go. All right, so TCL 20, it's got a design language that I think is going to be very familiar from looking at, you know, Samsungs and LGs and OnePluses. Rounded sides, you know, really pretty curved screen, not curved screen, flat screen, but curved corners, right into a rectangular side-mounted camera module, but reaching a lower price point for a 5G phone. We got an early glimpse of this with the TCL 10. So here in the United States, there is a $399 TCL 10 5G UW. It's available on Verizon. Here, it looks like they're going to be taking a step down for chipset power. And they're going to move from a Snapdragon 765 to a Snapdragon 690. And so this is really putting the TCL 20 right smack dab into Nord N10 territory. So this is going to go head to head at around $299 for folks who are, I mean, again, I'm pretty confident this is going to be a sub 6. I don't think this is going to be millimeter wave or a Verizon exclusive, because Verizon has their TCL 10. And honestly, I mean, if you're on Verizon, the $100 for millimeter wave and the more powerful chipset is probably the way to go. But for everyone else, like if you're on T-Mobile and you want some competition for a Nord, this is looking pretty exciting. I'm very interested in the $299 5G consumer space here in North America. We don't get as many options in the USA as you might get for like Realme's and Xiaomi's and Oppo's and all those other like lower cost but premium built phones. So kind of appeasing the market for United States carriers and offering up a phone that's a solid daily driver. I mean, if you want to see what that really looks like, you can go to somegadgetguy.com. You can check out my series of Buy the Benchmarks, and I compare the TCL 10 5G UW with the Snapdragon 765 against a Nord N10 with the Snapdragon 690, and that would be a very similar fight like what we would see from this TCL 20. I have no concerns over daily driver smartphone activities. Like these purpose-built mid-rangers tackle the daily heavy lifting stuff just fine. So it could be kind of cool. It is kind of interesting, again, you know, companies that are talking about like their product names. Like if you had a TCL 10 5G, it is a more powerful phone than a TCL 20 5G. And that's the kind of stuff, the same issues that I had with Google this year. You know, a Pixel 4 to a Pixel 5, you're not getting a more powerful phone. From Adichie Anil, let me get this straight. The millimeter wave is proprietary Verizon tech and the rest of the world uses sub 6. No, millimeter wave is not proprietary. It's just Verizon, I believe, is still the only carrier in the United States that has properly launched a millimeter wave network. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong there. But I'm pretty sure millimeter wave was only put out by Verizon over 2020. Other countries are going to have their own millimeter wave networks. It's just, I think most carriers and most countries are starting with sub 6, and then they'll be building on top of that for millimeter wave. Someone else was asking, McCorcoran 3, wasn't there a pro model of the TCL 10? I'm assuming there will be. They launched with basically what TCL launched and what they announced here at CES was competition for the Nord N10 and Nord N100. So the other phone that they launched is called the TCL 20 SE, lower cost device than the TCL 20 5G. So going from like $300 to like sub $200, just like, I'm sorry, €299 to sub €200. They obviously, I don't think we've gotten pricing for the United States if they're coming to the United States. But that's the market. You know, that's where we're seeing some of the most exciting growth in smartphone sales. That, you know, it's a Galaxy A series, not a Galaxy S series. It's an iPhone SE in a fiscal quarter, maybe not an iPhone 12 Pro. So it really seems like TCL 20 5G, TCL 20 SE, almost feature for feature, going after the Nord. And that's an exciting fight. Like when I handle the Nord, I mean, that's not going to be a phone for me. But I have so many family and friends that would do just fine and then would be tickled. Like they would actually genuinely like these phones, and then they'd be happy that they only spent $300 in getting them. So the other thing that I wanted to show off from TCL, they had a series of tablets. And this is actually, again, I'm kind of excited whenever we see any kind of alternative display technology. They teased this a while back. In fact, when I had a TCL PR rep on, it was one of the things that he did talk about in our interview. Wasn't just, LCD versus OLED. There is a display tech that might make sense for consumers out there. Oops, that's not what I want to show. I want to show this. And it's the Next Paper. And so this is a sort of a color e-ink style display on a larger tablet form factor. And I am really excited to see if something like this can actually, if something like this can actually kind of make an impression in the consumer space, where you would pick up like a Kindle, and a lot of those digital ink or e-ink or e-paper displays, started out as black and white, and maybe the color viewing experience wasn't quite as nice. Something like this could be really cool, shaking up how we interact with gadgets. There's a digital health conversation about how we're all constantly staring into displays that generate light that smash us in the face. So I'm kind of curious, like something like this. I mean, just imagine the experience of like reading a comic book on an e-paper, a color e-paper display. And like the texture of that, the color of that, how light reflects off of the display being more like the traditional printed page gets me really kind of excited. I miss my Pebble, like taking it all the way back to some small screen wearables. It looks so much better when you're in bright light conditions and you don't have to kind of overpower the sun with a backlit device or an organic light emitting device. It's a tantalizing glimpse into an alternative for how we might interact with these types of products. But Tams80 is saying, I'm not interested in tablets unless they have styluses. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Tams, because let's go back into screen share and we can check out this TCL Tab 10S, because the TCL Tab 10S, oh, I don't know if they'll show it in this press photo. I might have just shot that. Yeah, okay. I failed there. So the Tab 10S is going to be a 10-inch tablet, probably mid-ranger chipset. It has stylus support, and they're going to have an optional keyboard dock. So I was gonna get all woohoo, but that didn't work at all. So yeah. But yeah, I'm going to be really curious to see that, because the tablet we use with Lex. And again, part of this is also TCL is really trying to focus on kids modes for a lot of these like multi-use or family gadgets. A tablet kind of becomes a family computer. It gets passed around for different uses for different family members. They're going to be working on an enhanced kids mode to try and keep content safe for viewing, all that kind of stuff. It looks like an interesting, sort of again, it's a TCL, so I'm not expecting it to come out at like top tier premium pricing. But the consideration for stylus support and for having a hardware keyboard accessory makes this a more compelling family option, even if it is a mid-ranger chipset. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe there's a MediaTek. Like if we could get a Dimensity 1000 in this thing and not have to pay like, the highest of Qualcomm prices for like a 765 series or even an 855, that would be great. That would be overkill for what my daughter needs to do on a little slate computer. But she's really into tablet, stylus interactions with a tablet. She's 5. She likes to scribble. She likes to color. She likes to play games. And moving back and forth is becoming very natural for her to go from finger touch to pen touch. It's really exciting to watch because, she's getting better at writing out words and doing math problems. And now she's even writing out that experience too. So it's really exciting to see. I would assume TCL would come in with some very wallet friendly pricing for that kind of family tech. All right. But the thing that I was most lit up about, and I've been harassing TCL PR. Like I've literally already sent like 4 or 5 emails to different TCL contacts and Twitter accounts and people. I need to pull this up here. Hold on. It's not in the, come on. It's not in connected devices. Okay. If you have followed any of my commentary or if you have watched any of my videos, and we just had a conversation about cars with heads-up displays. When it comes to optical and display tech, I am always going to be crazy excited about face computing, of putting some kind of cool display on your face, face covered, face on. I just watched Face Off recently, so I'm all Nicolas Caging this right now. I want to flashback. When was this? It was like 5 years ago now. I feel we all kind of have a sense memory of like some of the more ambitious flops that we've seen in the consumer electronics space. And let's say you were a fan of LG. Like maybe I've been known to talk about how I enjoy LG products. We had just gotten out of the fruity boot loops of the terrible Qualcomm 810 and 808. That tanked LG and HTC, and it hurt Motorola and Huawei and the Nexus. If you wonder why we don't have a Nexus, it's not Google's fault as much as it is Qualcomm's fault. But one of the things that we tried, and it didn't work at all. It never really became a tangible, actual consumer product. But I'm sure folks in this chat remember the LG G5, which was built around an idea of modular components. The basic one being an audio. What we now take for granted for the LG Quad DAC was put on a separate piece of hardware. If you really cared about the audio experience, you would slot in this other audio processing hardware. But one of the components that got showed off a bit, but we never really got to play with, LG was trying to make a modular phone-powered component for a VR headset. This was the heyday of Google Cardboard, right? We were just starting to maybe get some news on Daydream, a VR headset powered by your phone with an actual controller to interact with. That would come with support from the Axon 7 and the first Pixel. So this was kind of an exciting potential. It didn't really work out, right? Daydream is now dead. Phone-based VR isn't really a thing. But the idea of entertainment hardware powered by a phone for a singular sort of private experience should still be alive. Our phones are now stupid powerful compared to where we were 4 and 5 years ago. Now would be the right time to maybe bring something like that back. And TCL teased this really hard in their press conference. They are making a wearable display. And according to their press conference, this will be a product shipping out to consumers. So if you want your own private cinema experience, this, I believe, is going to be focused more on viewing content than like AR or VR. I don't really think this is going to be a VR headset as much as it is going to be like a private cinema. And it's powered by Sony OLEDs in the displays, which is an interesting partnership for TCL, as they've got their own manufacturing on, display tech. It's again, I'm very interested and very anxious about a product like this. And I've already, like I said, I've been harassing Simon says hypno. But how do they feel on the nose? How's it feel in the hand? Does it feel like you could hold it in your hand without your hand getting sliced open? Like, how does it fit on the face? Again, I got a flashback. I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even longer, when those first Sony cinema headsets were coming out of Japan. It was before we really had gotten into like Oculus and VR tech. And it was at Vegas. I was at a Sony store when there were still physical Sony stores in Las Vegas. And it's this little kiosk like tucked into the back corner of this Sony experience. And they had like a little stool set up, and I put on this headset, and it felt just like I was in my own private movie theater. And ever since then, I've been wanting that kind of experience back. Today, the closest I can get to that is, with a VR headset, which is a lot. That's a lot to get into, even with like a Windows mixed reality set. And it's okay. There's a lot of screen door effect on those lower resolution displays. Like you're just wanting to watch a movie and have it feel like you're sitting in a movie theater. Not as nice. Not as nice. It's so close, but it's not quite there. So TCL is making, and they look like sort of just closed glasses, like glasses that are not, like viewable. Someone mentioned, I'm sorry, I missed it. They look like Trinity's sunglasses from The Matrix. And they do. They look just like that. Only they're obviously not lenses. They're displays that you're going to look at this content. So I am silly, like pants on head excited to see this coming out from TCL. TCL is a company really hyper-focused on that consumer content consumption experience. And if I can have a private cinema headset viewing experience powered by a phone, like if I pull out that TCL 10 Pro or maybe the 10 5G, and that's enough horsepower to drive a good, high-quality viewing experience, I'm going to be so lit up. I am so excited for this trend manifesting this year at CES, where augmented reality, virtual reality, we're coming back to some of these tech ideas with a little more maturity in some paths where there's a consumer application. Like it's not just frivolous kind of one-off, I guess you could use it, but who's really going to rely on it? I think the next time I get on an airplane and I want to watch a movie, and I can have like a private cinema experience as opposed to like trying to like prop up a phone or a tablet, so much nicer. I'm so excited for that. We're at home now, right? Like I can hear my wife and daughter sort of moving back and forth between school and work. And, if my daughter's in the living room watching a Disney movie and I want to watch something else, what I've been doing is kind of propping up a phone and using some Bluetooth headphones. It'd be kind of nice, to have something where I could still be generally in the same environment, but having a unique media experience if we're not really looking to share what's on the same TV. So TCL, hit me up. I'm doing grabby hands in your general direction because I want real bad. I want that. I want it a lot. Bigly. I bigly want it muchly. All right. And this kind of goes hand in hand with two of my sort of fun finds for the show this year. Like I said, AR and VR, we're building. Oh man, I just clicked out of what I'm going to try and show you next. AR and VR, we're coming back to some of these applications, and we're trying to find ways of making them more consumer accessible. We're still waiting for those like killer apps, but maybe AR isn't something that people will experience first by wearing glasses on their face. It's going to go through their phone camera. Then maybe we can push it into like a car windshield in a very limited capacity, but in a very focused and in a way that will really benefit the driving experience. I'm still saddened by the loss of Focals by North. Having a heads-up display and a pair of glasses, super discreet, way better than a smartwatch. I miss almost every day. I miss having my Focals by North. They're completely all of the server side. Nothing works on them anymore. So, you can imagine how cautiously optimistic I am when a sort of a new startup is looking at the smart glasses space, and an established, I guess like a sort of an established manufacturer who focuses more on the business side of augmented reality. From opposite directions, we're seeing two companies look at AR in a more consumer-focused way. So the first one is Norm. I'm going to be following them. I'm trying to reach out to them. I want to get like an interview or like a booth tour. But Norm glasses, looking like a regular pair of sunglasses, a bit chunky, but a regular pair of sunglasses that will have a CPU, storage, battery, microphone, speakers, camera as part of a heads-up display. And that you'll be able to have very simple prompts that fire up in your field of view. This is very much like the Focals by North experience. I really like this idea for consumers. It's not really augmented reality. It's not like it's mapping, your path in front of you when you do a map. It's not like it's, interacting with elements when you look through a recipe, like now pick up this egg and like an arrow goes to the egg. It's not doing anything like that. But putting this information up at eye level radically reduces the amount of times you need to sit around and like futz with your phone. I mean, think about how terrible your phone is at notifications. When you get notifications, you've got to stop what you're doing and pay attention to your phone and then go back. Even a smartwatch is less, it's less distracting than your phone, but it's still a hard pause on your day to interact with a smaller display and then decide if you need to pull out your phone to interact with something. So the controls are built into the frames of the glasses. I do kind of wish that it was more like the Focals. The Focals had a little ring that you would wear, and that ring had a joystick on it. But here it's, you tap to the sides of the glasses, and then you can interact with different things on your phone. And especially with the recent improvements to like the Android messaging and replies, like how you can interact with rich notifications. I'm hoping it can really do what they're looking at. I think without prescription lenses, they're targeting a $500 price point, which again, considering where the Focals started at, because they started at closer, I think, to $700. When I got them, they were already priced down, starting at $600 to $700. I think that's a good starting place. It's wearable tech that really changes your relationship with data and notifications, and I want it back so bad. But on the proper AR side, there's a company called Vuzix, and Vuzix makes a lot of industrial solutions. Like say you're working at a UPS shipping center and you want information at eye level for packing and shipping and barcode scanning and stuff like that. That's Vuzix's main sort of corporate focus is more business to business, not business to consumer. But they're showing off a next gen pair of AR glasses. And I can't make this full screen properly, but so what we're looking at are dual displays. So stereoscopic displays, cameras. Again, they look kind of chunky, but this is so much more discreet than where we were like back with Google Glass. So you can connect either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. They say they're going to have an LTE model. But then what really gets exciting is information that is fed through to lenses, mono or color displays in stereo view. So not like Focals where one eye is taking the load. Here, this should be information that floats at a higher clarity or a higher fidelity and can interact directly with Android and iOS. So if Vuzix can really pull this off, we will be so close to proper, AR glasses. It's going to be frustrating because like we know Apple's working on something like this, and Apple's going to come out with it, and then they'll have invented AR glasses. But the real nuts and bolts of making this consumer accessible have been in operation for a couple years now. Like Vuzix has been around for a while now. They won't get as much credit, you know what I mean? Of really like taking all the risks and trying to create a whole company built on interacting with data at eye level. So again, just some stuff I'm silly geeked out about. multiple options. Panasonic showed off some VR headsets that looked like goggles. Hold on, let me screen share this real quick. Yeah, like their VR glasses look like mad scientist goggles. Like that is so cool. I love the idea of VR now being tackled in a different way for consumers, that, you know, you don't really care what you look like when you wear VR. But let's say you could make each of the screens for a VR headset just more contained in these tubes, and you didn't need the whole visor assembly that kind of wraps around your head. Well, then you're saving on weight. You can make these more wearable. You can make them more comfortable. Like it solves some issues with VR. With AR, if you can make a heads-up display or augmented reality into a pair of glasses that sort of fits and is worn like a normal pair of glasses, that's what's going to get consumers interested in that product or solution. If you feel like you're walking around with like Borg implants and your head is all lopsided, you're gonna have to go to a chiropractor because your neck's all out of whack, this stuff isn't gonna work. You know, like consumers aren't gonna go with you on that. I will, because I'm a nerd, but they're gonna appreciate what that tech is capable of just based on, you know, it not being as wearable. So, yeah, like we're slowly getting there. It's baby steps to some Iron Man heads-up display. We'll have Jarvis. I want Friday. I want his girl Friday in my ear when I'm going about my business. She can manage my calendar and stuff. But we're getting there. It's some exciting stuff. And these were the announcements I needed just to kind of refuel my soul. Kicking off CES, not getting to see my friends. As soon as I'm done with this live stream, I'm going to be jumping right into a press conference for a smaller trade show that goes with CES. And you're going to have a lot more to talk about. Yolanda, some gadget locutus. Resistance is futile. I mean, like, I don't want to say that I'm ready for an implant, but if you could just, you know, kind of plug a connector into my brain, I think I'd be down. I think I'd be willing to take that ride. So, folks, plenty more to talk about. You are going to get inundated by every techie and live streamer and tech publication putting out all of the hot takes coming from CES this year. So I definitely appreciate those of you who started your week listening to me ramble on first about politics, but then about some of the major press conferences that are out right now. I think we're going to see some exciting news in the consumer space, especially from companies that are understanding and are reacting more, they're reacting faster to the changing conditions that we're all working in. You know, why I had issues getting my live stream up and running. It's like I'm doing the show while my wife works from home and my daughter is at school at home. You know, I feel like 2021 is going to be an exciting reaction to the last year that we all spent trying to figure out how to make home computing work in a much more aggressive way. And I think CES is going to show us, you know, we've always had the connected future and Internet of Things and home automation. No, actually, I think we're going to see the practical outcome of an entire year of putting work on pause from the way that we used to go to offices to get this stuff done. So I got to tease it again. Me and TK are going to have a live stream on Thursday as we kind of wrap up the show, talk about some of the hits, talk about some of the misses. I'm really hoping that I can dig up more of the wacky stuff, the smaller companies and the weirder stuff from CES. I'm hoping that doesn't get lost in the shuffle, because I used to just go to their booths. I'm hoping I can still find that stuff like I usually do. And then stay tuned for Friday, where we're going to try and put together a Newegg live stream. Trisha and I, hopefully Mike Ortiz, if you remember from the Newegg Plays team, having just a chill, friendly, goofy chat about what our favorite announcements were from the show floor. So tons of stuff that we're going to be checking out, that we're going to be talking about. Stay tuned. Lots of live streams, a couple more videos, some articles. It's going to be some really fun stuff. And at the end of this week, I'm going to reach out on the Patreon, because I'm going to need some like fun So not the end of this week, but probably the end of the next following week. We're going to do another game night, and I'm hoping we can focus on some cheesy board games or some Jackbox games on the Patreon, patreon.com/somegadgetguy. So folks, thanks so much for watching. As always, the support is critical. It's huge. It's greatly appreciated, especially if you liked seeing this live stream on your YouTubes and not just on your Twitch. The way to encourage that kind of participation is sharing, participating, and getting the word out when we know the YouTube algorithm really doesn't like channels like mine. I go on Twitch because the YouTube's not so great. But of course, I greatly appreciate the contribution, the conversation, amazing chat as always. And as sharing is always critical, be it on social media or on Reddit or literally person to person. If you know someone who's interested in a tech conversation and they want to dig a little bit deeper, those are the kind of people we like in this live chat. So folks, so much, and I'll be around. I'll be on social media. I'll be on live streams. I'll be talking about this stuff as long as my voice and internet connection can hold out. I want you to have an amazing week. It's CES, so I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. And I'll catch you back here next Monday for another exciting and harrowing adventure in tech on another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Take care. Be well. It's still crazy out there. Stay safe. I hope you and your family are doing well. And I'll catch you back here next week. I love y'all.